Hello friend, Ben Ochart here. Thank you for tuning in. We just had a snowstorm and we're about to get another one. It's pretty nice right now here in Nashville, but we're going to get some weather down in the 20s, possibly in the teens. And so keeping our tanks, and in my case, my fish room, here's the fish room here, the garage, home of the garage gang. But keeping things nice and warm and keeping the fish comfortable becomes a bigger challenge when you have cold weather. So let's go ahead and go inside the fish room. Let me show you a few things that I do just to make sure that the fish stay nice and comfortable. Let's go ahead and go on in. So the first thing that you're probably already aware of that I did was insulate. I insulated this this garage door, and you can see it here. This is a material you can pick up from Home Depot, and it's basically just a thick styrofoam with a sheet, kind of like a vinyl sheet on one side. It does a real good job at keeping things nice and warm. I noticed a big change after insulating that door. I also want to show you that aquariums have many uses. In this case, I'm using it to store a bicycle helmet, and also some blue balls. Those blue balls will go into a sump eventually. But at any rate, let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm doing. Now, the first tip I'll give you is to increase the wattage. In cold weather, increase the wattage of your heaters. Most folks will recommend 3 watts per gallon. I could get away with that in California, especially since all my tanks were indoors. But here in Tennessee, I need 5 watts per gallon. And here in the 210 gallon, which, I mean, it's 210 gallons, but when you figure in the decor and the substrate and everything else, it's probably more like 190, maybe 180, when all the displacement that occurs. But then I have the sump, which adds water also. So maybe it is close to 200 gallons, but I'm using an 800 watt heater. This is an 800 watt heater right here. And then inside the sump, there's a 200 watt heater. So I have a combined total wattage of about 1,000 watts on this tank, being controlled from outside. You have the control devices for the heaters, but these are not controllers. They're off right now because the actual controller is over here, and that controller is set for 80 degrees. So when the tank hits 80 degrees, it shuts the heaters off, and so that way there's no chance that I'm going to overheat these tanks. So 5 watts per gallon. This tank stays a nice 80 degrees, right around 80 degrees. These tanks over here, I'll show you these tanks with the kind of controllers I have. These are True Temp controllers, and you can see they're keeping the tank at about 78.7, both of them. Now, very often the report that you get from your heaters and even from your floating thermometers, things like that, are not going to be accurate. So I suggest that you get something like a digital thermometer from a company like Taylor, or some company that makes reliable equipment, measurement equipment, and that way you can really make sure that you're getting the proper reading. For example, this tank here, the 90 gallon, the control on it will tell you that you're 81 degrees, and but the truth is this tank runs at about 79, so it's about 2 degrees off. And another thing that helps to keep my fish room comfortable is I have a door that connects the garage to the house, and so I'm getting some of that hot air that's venting into the house from the heaters coming into the garage. This garage was not designed for anybody to live in it. It's not heated. It's probably poorly insulated on each side. The top, there's a roof above it, so that the ceiling is probably insulated, and certainly the wall that connects this to the house, that's probably well insulated. But the side walls, I suspect, are very poorly insulated, and so is the garage door, of course. Garage door is taken care of, but I needed more heat coming in from the house, and that's helping. And then to help with that is I have a unit here called a this is Dr. Heater, and Dr. Heater Dr. Heater is helping to keep the room warm. The best heating, of course, is to have a fish room that's heated, and that really helps you to maintain the best possible conditions. I don't have, vents or built-in heating yet. I hope to in the future, but I don't right now. So that Mr. Heater, together with the 5 watts per gallon that I have in each tank, the insulation on the door, and things of that nature are helping to keep things the way they're supposed to be. Now, let's say you have a real disaster, maybe a power outage, something like that. Things that I've seen work in the past is I've had pieces of styrofoam that I've actually attached to the side and back and even the front of the aquarium to help keep it warm in the event of very, very cold weather. I used to have a tank outside in California and we had a cold snap. I put styrofoam around the tank, so it was basically a styrofoam cup. You can also use, of course, things like space blankets, things of that nature in the event of a power outage and you don't want your tanks to cool down too fast. So some fish, they can take, like these fish here, they probably have a very high tolerance. They have a wider range of temperature they can tolerate. Whereas I suspect fish like these here, like these South American, Central American fish, they probably have a more narrow band that they can really tolerate before they would start to experience a lot of discomfort. But using things like styrofoam and emergency blankets, things like that, that can really help too. But in my case, insulation, space heater, bringing in some heat from the house, and 5 watts per gallon, that's keeping my tanks right around 79 to 80 degrees, and the fish very comfortable, even though the temperature outside is dropped sometimes into the teens, and we might even hit single digits in February. All right, so thank you for tuning in, and certainly ask your questions below. I'll be happy to answer them, and if I can get to all of them, sometimes I can't. But join me on Saturday for the Cichlids and coffee. We can get more of your questions answered then, and that's it for me. Thank you for tuning in, my friend. Bye-bye.